Hello, I'm I Love Everyone, and this is Enchantment and Evolution, where we talk about science and fantasy and how they mix, clash, and new ways to think about your favorite fantasy universes. So, a little bit of intro about me. I'm a senior environmental science major, and I kind of started thinking about what would happen if we started thinking about fantasy universes in terms of the laws of entropy and evolution and things like that. And so I'm going to be making theories based on my understanding of the way our planet works, the way evolution works, and things like that. And so in the video today, I'm going to be talking about why I don't think dragons lay eggs. And so the first thing I'm going to say is that I think that I am going to be specifically talking about dragons living in our universe, not dragons in other universes, although I will draw on other fantasy universes in order to bring together my theory. So the first thing that I would like to do is talk about some scientific terms, and there are three which I'm going to introduce today. There's viviparity, live birth, which is what we do, which is basically what all mammals do, and there's ovipary, which is laying eggs, fish, frogs, most birds and reptiles. And then there's ovovivipary, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Ovovivipary means that the animal, usually reptiles and some birds, will retain the eggs internally and they hatch inside of her, and then it looks like they're giving live birth, and science did think that for a long time, but it turns out that they are not because the eggs are just internally retained. So, why do I think that dragons don't lay eggs? So, the first thing is that I don't think the male dragons parent at all. Now, parental care is extremely rare in reptiles in general, so you're not likely to see it in most reptiles, but dragons clearly do, right? They lay eggs. We see in a lot of universes that do have dragons that they do care for their young. So, basically, why does this matter? It's because in reptiles that exhibit parental care, you tend to find that it's only the females anyway, like crocodiles. And so the likelihood of male dragons helping their female compatriots out is kind of small. And I don't think they do this, especially because in the Harry Potter universe, in the fourth book, where there is the Triwizard Tournament, and they bring dragons, they would have brought the males, because usually in species where there is male parental care, the parental care starts from the egg laying, especially birds that are polyandrous, which basically means that the female mates with multiple males. She kind of just lays her eggs and leaves, which is why I think that the females would not be as defensive, and thus they would not be good for the Triwizard Tournament. But then the question is, if the female is doing all the work, how is she finding food for herself? How is she finding food for the babies when they hatch? And so I think that that's a big problem. And when she is out, how does she protect them? Which is another big issue, that if the male is not helping her out, then she kind of isn't going to be successful in defending her young. So the other reason that I think that dragons would be ovoviviparous is because it says in the Harry Potter universe that dragons breathe on their eggs. Now, this is mentioned when Hagrid is taking care of Norbert and he has the egg in his fire and they ask him why it's in the fire. He says the mothers breathe on them. This is another indication, by the way, that the mothers exhibit parental care, which we already knew, but this just seems impractical to me. Now, most people know that if you have fish eggs, they have to be kept moist, right? So it would be like if someone gave you a batch of fish eggs and said to keep them alive, you've just got to keep spitting on them. That's basically what asking a female to breathe fire on her eggs basically constantly is, which is just ridiculous. It's extremely energetically expensive. And in the Septimus Heap universe, it mentions that that those dragons actually are their internal body temperature is that of fire, which makes perfect sense to me, because if you're going to have a reptile that's that big, if they had to heat by laying in the sun, it would take them hours. And not even hours. It would take them several days, which would be solely impractical. They'd never be able to do anything, which is why it makes sense that they would actually already be the internal temperature of fire, and it would actually make the fire easier to start. But if they're already that temperature, then why would they lay their eggs when they have a perfectly equipped incubator already? I mean, it's hard for snakes that don't maintain this temperature to retain their eggs internally. But with dragons, it would be perfectly easy. So I think that that's another reason this theory is very plausible. I mean, and then there's the question of why you don't see this in fantasy universes. I kind of think that it's just that fantasy authors don't know about it. But I think that if dragons did evolve in our universe, they would not lay eggs, because it's just a bad strategy. Another point about them breathing on their eggs, even if they were not to breathe on their eggs constantly, if they were to find brush or things that would be flammable, they would probably have to leave their nest for that, which would go back to the point of leaving their eggs defenseless, which would also not work. So that's why I think that dragons don't lay eggs. If you disagree, if you see flaws in my theory, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.